Hello and welcome again to EdTech Society Masterclass 10. Today we are going to discuss about how to gather precise and actionable feedback from students on online video lectures. Our guest is Pankaj Chavan and we are right on time, 29th of May 2023, 6 p.m. IST. Okay, so the key objective of this session is that once you will interact or once you will understand this masterclass, you will be able to describe the use of Teacherly in pedagogical approaches like flipped classroom, blended learning. Second objective is that you will use Teacherly in your classroom. Third objective is that examine the teaching learning situation from your own as well as the student's perspective. Now the question is what this Teacherly is. So our speaker Pankaj Chavan will be describing you what Teacherly is and how you can use it in your classroom and how it can make your teaching learning more effective. I want to reiterate the fact that if you have any doubts, if you have any questions, then do post it in the chat section. That will be helpful for Pankaj Chavan as well as for us to address your queries. So our speaker is Pankaj Chavan. He is a senior manager at Kotak Education Foundation. He is doctoral researcher in educational technology department at IIT Bombay. He has over 9 years of diverse experience as a teacher, teacher trainer, and researcher. He sees himself as a pragmatist, focusing on designing and developing human centered solutions to educational programs of practice. His work lies in the intersection of education, technology, and design. In his doctoral research, he designed and developed a data informed model for assessing and improving lectures, that is basically the Teacherly, and he has been actively involved in designing and conducting several faculty development program across India on topics such as flipped classroom, assessment, online teaching, use of ICT in education, etc. Thank you, Pankaj, for being a part of this masterclass.
Yes,
Before,
hi. Oh, sorry. Yeah, continue.
yes, please, please, no problem.
No, I just wanted to thank you and thanks for the welcome.
Okay, so yeah, okay. Before I hand over this session to Pankaj, I just want to make two quick announcement. First announcement is that at Tech Society and in with collaboration with IIT Bombay, so they are organizing T4E International Conference on Technology for Education 2023. T4E conference will happen on 24th to 26th November, and the paper submission deadline is 25th June 2023. And the more important thing is that members at Tech Society members will get discounted registration for T4E conference. So if you are not a member till yet, so you can just go to etsociety.org, you can become the member, or you can get to know more information about T4E conference, themes, areas where you can present your paper, or how you can be a part of this conference. So okay, and the other key announcement is that at the end of this session, we will share the letter of participation, and we will also share a feedback form with you. So you just have to fill it up, and then the letter of participation will be sent to you. But that will happen once you attend the entire session. So we request you to stay with us, to stay with Pankaj, and ask your questions, doubts, whatever you want to, and then we will share the letter of participation form in the end. So again, thank you very much to all the audience whosoever has joined us for this masterclass. Now I am handing over this session to Pankaj. He will be taking over it from this time onwards. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah, thank you so much, Salim, and welcome everyone. Welcome to this masterclass, and thank you so much at Tech Society for inviting me to conduct this masterclass. So today will be like Salim said, we'll be talking about a very interesting stuff related to online video lectures. So we all at some point of time have kind of learned through video lectures, And if we are a teacher, like if we are even designers, we kind of design some video lectures, create video lectures as well. And if you are a teacher, you might have shared at some point of time video lectures with your students so that they can learn from it. You might have used some strategies like, let's say, flip classroom, where you might have given it before class. So basically I'll be talking about this different things today. And like Salim said, the topic for today's masterclass is how can we gather precise and actionable feedback from students on online video lectures. So, like Salim said, I'm currently senior manager at Kotak Education Foundation. I work there in a digital learning solutions project. But before this, and I'm currently also a doctoral researcher at IIT Bombay in interdisciplinary program in educational technology. And the work that I'll be presenting today and the tool that I'll be presenting today, it's basically the culmination of last 5 to 6 years of my work, which was part of my PhD. And I'll be talking about in depth related to how we can capture the data, very precise and actionable feedback, and how teachers can use it to inform their instructions and different pedagogical decisions. So it's just a brief about, I just wanted to give an overview of what we'll be doing and what I'll be talking about. So now let's move towards the talk, and then we'll kind of go over questions as well. If you have any questions, feel free to post it in chat. Okay, so let's get started. So the first question which comes in mind, and everyone is kind of familiar with the instructional videos. So how relevant are videos in teaching learning, right? So this is one question that might come to in mind, because everywhere there is a talk about edtech. There are even some tools and some platforms which leverages videos in teaching learning, right? So, but how relevant are videos? So let's get into some statistics and some data related to use of videos in education. So there is a video hosting platform called Kaltura. So Kaltura every year conduct a survey on use of videos in education, and this is one of their survey. And if you just look at this chart, you will see which talks about. So on x-axis, I'll just go over it very briefly. So on x-axis, it's basically the frequency of usage of videos in teaching learning, and on y-axis is percentage of teachers who are reporting that we use videos in with this much frequency. So you'll be able to see, like here the usage at least more than 50% of times many teachers are reporting. So according to this survey, there is again an insight that around 97% of teachers see video usage as very useful in teaching learning. And I'll be again going through that insights in a while. But this is just an overview of what stats is there about use of videos in education. And there is also some recent literature review which talks about the impact of videos in K-12 classroom as well. So there also videos are being used largely, and they are most commonly used for the delivery of pre-class content in flipped classroom. And the same thing holds for higher education as well. So higher education universities now are moving towards blended learning, and flipped classroom is one of the blended learning strategy as well. So there the use of videos are increasing continuously. So the rise is again because of multiple things. As the enrollment is increasing, there is some flexibility that is needed at the university level when students are learning. So as numbers are increasing, there is no that much bandwidth universities might have. So they are also converting some of their courses in a blended mode. So there the use of videos is going to extensively rise in the coming time. And that's what the overall idea about how videos are used and to what extent they are being used. And again, a similar survey, which is a recent one, has by Kaltura, has showed that 97% of education professionals see video as essential to their students' academic experiences. So the data that I just showed, it was a 2019 survey, and this is the most recent survey. And that survey also highlights a similar trend, that is, teachers definitely see value in use of videos in their teaching learning. And now just let's look at it from a perspective of like pedagogy as well as practical. I talked about the flexibility aspect of it. So now let's look at the use of video lectures from a pedagogical perspective, in what all ways videos can be used, right? So the first point, if you see here, they are being largely used as a preparatory material for flipped classroom. So if you kind of hear about how videos are used in education, in teaching, learning, this is the most common strategy, pedagogical strategy, that is for which the videos are being used. Then some teachers also use it as a supplementary material to kind of deepen the understanding of students. So for example, a topic is taught and then some assessments are happening, and based on the assessment, teacher identify that there is some lacking area and they provide some supplementary videos so that the students, where there are some problems, challenges, the understanding can be deepened over there. Maybe it can also be used as modeling of problem solving. So some worked examples are demonstrated through videos, and it's also provided for viewing or reviewing of content. So these are some usage, like I mean from a pedagogical perspective, videos are being used in these different ways. And like I was talking about flexibility, accessibility, and all that, so from practical perspective, these parameters are important because of which videos are used. And along with that, cost is also one more factor, because if we think about the infrastructure cost and every other thing that is involved when the classes has to happen face to face, then the cost involved is very much higher. And when we universities may go to blended mode, then the cost reduces significantly. So that's how the practical and pedagogical perspective of use of video lectures, if we see, these are some initial kind of insights related to use of videos. Now, here is a reflection spot for all of you. So, watching online video lectures for learning has become very common from the last decade, right? So, kind of around 2010, 2011, the use of videos started, and like in MOOC courses primarily, they were introduced, and also in a strategy like I was talking about, flip classroom and other stuff like tutorials and all that. So, watching online video lectures for learning through this different means has become very common in from the last decade. So let's just reflect onto it, and let's think about it from a student's perspective, and let's just try to answer this question, like what challenges students may face while watching online video lectures. So you can think for 1 minute and then write down the possible challenges that the students might face. Just try to make those points in your notebook, and then after this we'll kind of do a quick summary of what are the challenges, why those challenges exist, and how we can mitigate those challenges. So take a minute or so to just write down and reflect upon what challenges or problems might occur while learning from video lectures. Okay, so it's like around 40 to 45 seconds. I'll wait for 10 more seconds, and then we'll just try to summarize like what all challenges or problems students might face. Yeah, and I can see some responses in chat as well. People talking about network connectivity issues, and long duration of the video is then one thing. Mental connection with teacher is someone is talking about. Just think about, are there any other challenges as a student you also might have faced, or you as a teacher may see or observe this when students are being assigned some video lectures to watch. So I would just like to maybe take this further and talk about, like, from learning point of view also you think about it. And there is one response from, I guess, Rakshita. She's saying sometimes when we learn at that point we don't understand, right? So she's talking about not able to understand the content. And maybe I'll wait for 10 more seconds to see if there are any other responses, and then we'll move ahead. Okay, there is one more response. Too boring to watch from the whole video. So I've got like two responses here related to learning, which talks about it's sometimes boring, it's sometimes we are not able to understand, right? Okay, so fair enough. We have a kind of some responses from audiences. So let's move ahead and try to see how it looks like and like what are the challenges which are there. So what I did is I just asked you a question and asked you to think from the perspective of a student, right? So I asked a similar question to students and I gave them options as well, right? So these were the options that were given to them. Like, what challenges did you face while watching online video lectures? So the options were like not able to understand the content, finding the materials too complicated or difficult to understand, or there could be some ineffective design of videos as well. So for example, some schematics and animations are not working, they are not helping in the information processing, there could be some lack of explanation, or the pace is not appropriate, because of which the students are not able to understand the content the way they were supposed to be. And one more option of like getting disengaged while watching the video lectures, and they were not able to communicate certain experiences, like Rachita was saying, sometimes we when we learn at that point we don't understand. So that understanding or not able to understand these experiences, you're not able to communicate as a learner because you're learning from videos at a location which is like kind of isolated, it's not a classroom setting, it's an online setting where the communication is kind of a problem, right? So I asked this question to a student and let's see what responses they had. So I know this font is not visible which is here, but I'll just kind of read it out quickly from here and I'll talk about what exactly the responses were, right? So here if you see the like around 192 students kind of responded to this question in one of my sessions, and the largest number of students talked about getting disengaged while watching the video lecture. So one of you also talked about too boring at points, right? At some point of time. And there is another there are other like around 100 students also talked about the inability to communicate their learning experiences, like whether they are engaged or bored, or whether they are getting the content or not getting the content. So this kind of communication was a problem, and along with that the other options were also chosen, right? So, if we see these were the challenges that I talked about, now let's see how these challenges or the problems that we just discussed might affect the teaching learning process, and let's try to do that with a teaching learning scenario. So, this is Miss Pooja. This is Miss Pooja's classroom, and let's see what happened in her classroom. So she's a very enthusiastic and innovative teacher. So she learned about flipped classroom, and she got trained onto that, and she was very excited about implementing flipped classroom in her own classroom, right? So then what she did, she designed a flipped lesson, and she kind of gave a video lecture or a set of video lectures to the students to watch before class. So the students were expected to come prepared to the classroom, and before the class they were expected to go through the content, watch the video lectures, complete it, and come to the class prepared. And during classroom she planned a discussion along with a problem solving session, okay? And this was the plan for a during class look like. And after class she decided that, so I'll give some homework so that the students can practice the concepts that were delivered in the video, as well as practice and discussed and like solved, the problem solving has been done onto that in the classroom setting. And then this is what she planned for, right? Now what happened is, she basically kind of now went into the classroom and uh, started with the discussion. Now during classroom she observed something. What she observed is there is less participation from the students, and the students were struggling with the concepts that were delivered in the classroom, sorry, that were delivered in the video, right? And there was also a lack of understanding of the concept that she observed. So she was very surprised to see that the concept is not that difficult from her viewpoint, and the video is just like 15-20 minutes duration. The video is not that difficult to understand, but still students are not participating, they are struggling with the concept. So now why this has happened? So this has basically happened because of two reasons, like one on the student side and the other on the teacher side, right? So the first thing is there is a physical separation, right? The students are watching the video lecture at home and the communication is a problem. So whenever they were not able to understand the content, or they found the materials too difficult to understand, or there was some ineffective design of the video or the content, and they were not able to ask questions or communicate that I'm finding issue here, or I'm finding some challenges over here. So this was from a student's perspective. Now look at it from a teacher's perspective. Now student teacher has given the video lecture to watch at home, Now students are watching the video lecture, let's say 2 days before they started, and in the classroom only they came in and teacher came to know that okay, they have not understood the concept, or they are struggling with the concept itself, because she was not able to identify like how students are learning from the video lecture, how their experiences were, or whether the lecture materials are effective or not effective. And in, let's say, in a 15 or 20 minutes of video lecture, what were the engaging or challenging segments for the students, based on which she might have designed some better in class activities, so that their problems, challenges are addressed, or their engagement is kind of leveraged further, so that the students engage more in the activities and learn better from it, right? So that's why she was not very sure about what to focus during the class. So there were different kind of blind spots for her, because she was not able to understand, identify how students are learning, what are their experiences and all. So this kind of blind spot led to a session where the teaching learning happened, but not so in an effective manner, right? And which could have been really better if teacher would have got the understanding of how students are learning, where they find something difficult, where the engagement is, where there is boredom, and that could have been leveraged based on the that understanding, right? So basically what's happening here is there is a lack of support for the teacher. So teacher wants to integrate the videos in instruction, but she is not able to integrate it effectively, because like I just mentioned, there is a communication gap and there is a pedagogical blind spot for the teachers as well. And there are many teachers like Miss Pooja that I just talked about, who face and kind of struggle with few things. And on the right side, if you see, there are some pointers that I've mentioned, which I also talked about. So teachers often struggle when students are learning through video lectures. So the first thing is, they often struggle with understanding the students' learning experiences. Are they getting it, or they are not getting it, or there is engagement, boredom, whatever it is. And then they also kind of often struggle with identifying the challenging or engaging concepts for the students, like what was very difficult, what was really challenging, but was it engaging at the same point of time. So this kind of understanding teacher doesn't get when students learn from the video lecture at home. Then they are also not able to evaluate the efficacy of video lecture materials and design. So is it because students don't want to watch, or is it because the materials itself are not very effective, or there are certain changes that are required in the lecture material? So this again is a blind spot for the teacher. And hence, because of all of these factors, the teacher is not able to effectively integrate videos in her teaching learning, right? So there are pedagogical blind spot, and because of those, the teacher is not able to take certain pedagogical decisions, so that in class activity, in case of flipped classroom, can be designed effectively. So let's say, for example, as a teacher, I have given a video lecture, and I am able to identify before my session, before my face-to-face session, that concept X and Y are difficult for students as compared to concepts Z and A, and they are difficult because of certain reasons B, C, and D. So if I get all this understanding, that I'll be able to I'll be in a better position to design my face-to-face lessons, and so that the students are engaged and they learn in a better manner. So this is what the support which is not there for the teachers, right? Then we might so quickly what comes to our mind is video learning analytics, which is again a very significant area in which a lot of research is happening currently. So what we can get from video analytics data is how many views are there. Like we can also see here there are certain number of views, a certain number of people who have joined this live session, right? So views or time spent by the students could be one of the metric from which they identify, okay, they watched or didn't watch the video. They might give certain post-hoc questionnaires as well, like they give a questionnaire which has to be filled at the end of the video. Or there could be there are different platforms as well where students can annotate the video itself. Like for example, they are watching the video and they can put up their questions there, or they can kind of like, dislike, and different stuff are possible there, right? But the and we might think that this is really useful, but let's think about it from a teacher's point of view, where the time is always a constraint, right? That the teacher going through these annotations, and let's say there are hundreds of annotation on a single video, when the teacher will get time to analyze all those annotations and then use that to inform the face-to-face session in a flipped classroom or a flipped design, it's not possible, right? Then there is something called as clickstream data, which we are all familiar with, like, right, pause, play, seek forward, seek backward. So this is too granular, I mean too finer kind of data which we get, like where there is a lot of pausing happening, a lot of play or seek backward, seek forward is happening. So if we get all this kind of data, then we might be able to see how students are interacting with the video, right? But all this parameters and metrics that I just talked about, they actually lack practical implications for teachers, right? So for their instructional design and practice, it's not much useful. From a research point of view, clickstream data is really useful because we'll be able to identify learner profiles, and like there are certain types of video watchers, like they pause frequently, play. Pause play is a very frequent action, or seeking backward, seeking forward is a very frequent action, and maybe based on that some profiling can be done. And how student perform is there is some kind of correlation and all that can be done, right? But if we think about it from a teacher's viewpoint, then there is not much the teacher can get from this pause play and learner profiles. So let's take a look at one example which kind of showcases and shows that okay, why this is not so much useful. So let's see. This is let's say a video analytics analysis that has been conducted, where the pause, play, seek, etc. is kind of combined, and this resulted into some interaction data. So let's assume that there is this video where this is the before transition and this is after transition video. I mean, there is this timestamp, and before this timestamp there was this slide, and after timestamp there is this video of the instructor, right? And this through this clickstream data, it was identified that there is an interaction peak. I mean, a lot of actions happened in this section, right, in this segment. And similarly, there is another video where both the slides are same, there is no transition between the slides, but still somewhere here at this timestamp a lot of interaction happened, right? So there is a visual transition here, there is no visual transition here, but still there are interaction peaks which are present in both the cases. Now, as an instructor, what do we infer from it? We are not able to understand why there is a lot of interaction happening. Is it because they have returned to the previous content here because they were not able to understand, or is it because there is some design issue with this, or is it because students do not have prior knowledge, that's why they are kind of coming back and watching the video again and again and again? And similar thing goes here as well. So we don't have a particular understanding, and the teacher doesn't have a clear understanding of why there is a lot of interaction happening here. So returning to a previous content or repeating a non-visual presentation here, what is exactly causing the students to go back and kind of do a lot of actions there? So basically this kind of analysis, though useful, though it gives a very granular data, very fine grained data, it doesn't provide insights to the instructors, right? So basically it doesn't talk about why. I mean, why there is the existence of this peak, what was the real intent of the students. So there is no access to students reasons behind it. So I might have kind of went back and watched a particular part of the video multiple times because there is a lack of explanation, and that's why I'm kind of repeat kind of seeking backward and watching that part again. And there could be certain set of students who are doing the same thing, but then that access teacher doesn't have, like what is the reason behind a student going back and doing a lot of video actions over there. And definitely there is a lack of context to interpret, because how students are perceiving the instruction, from what viewpoint a lot of video actions are happening, this context is not there, and because of which the interaction data, even though it's too fine, too granular data, it doesn't give insights to the instructor about how students are receiving the instruction, where is the problem, where is the challenge, where they are engaged, where they are not engaged. So this doesn't give a clear picture of it, right? And hence there is a better support for teachers who kind of uses in videos in their instruction, and there is a need of designing a better support and a tool so that teachers get a very precise and actionable feedback. So definitely this is a very precise thing, right? Here a lot of video actions happen, but it's not actionable because teachers are not getting insights of why there is a lot of video actions, or why there are a lot of interactions happening in a particular part of the video. So that's what we kind of tried to address, and we decided that we should address this. And that's where we kind of try to design a tool for teachers which provides them precise and actionable feedback on video lectures. Now what I'll do is I'll briefly talk about the approach that we have taken first, and then I'll move to the tool which is Teacherly, and what all is available with the tool. So when we started kind of designing this tool, and we kind of, I just talked about the problems that teachers face, the problems that students face. So there is a lack of communication, right? So this is where we started from. So basically we believe that teaching is fundamentally a collaboration between the teacher and students, right? So if we think about students, then students definitely get regular feedback from teachers, right? So this feedback is present in different forms, and teachers regularly get feedback, either test scores or class feedback or feedback on their assignment, homework, whatever it is. So there is a regular feedback channel from teachers to students, but there is no regular and actionable feedback which is present for a teacher. But like I said, both forms a very important part of this classroom, and the collaboration between the two is really important. And I also like kind of showed why communication, if students are not able to communicate their problems to teachers, what happens? There is a blind spot for the teacher, right? So that's what we try to work upon, and we kind of try to identify like how we can provide regular and actionable feedback to teachers, and how we can get that feedback from a very important stakeholder of the teaching learning process, that is students. So that's how we kind of approached it, and we kind of designed this tool which is called Teacherly. So this is basically a teaching improvement tool, and now I'll be talking about how it works, how teacher kind of get feedback from the student, and how that feedback can be useful for the teacher to inform their instruction. So this is what I'll be talking about. So I'll just first give you a brief outline of how Teacherly looks like, what all components it has. So Teacherly consists of two components. So it has, on one side it has student interface, so using which students can provide feedback while watching the video lecture, and on the other side there is a dashboard which we call a Teacherly dashboard or teacher dashboard, where whatever the feedback is kind of collected from the students is provided to the teacher as a class feedback, and teacher can kind of visualize student feedback and inform their pedagogical decisions based on that. Now I'll quickly show you how the student interface looks like and how a dashboard looks like, and after that I'll give you demo of the tool and how teacher can use this tool in their teaching learning. So this is how the student interface kind of looks like, using which students can provide feedback on video lectures. So if you see on the left side, there is this video, and this video is uploaded by teacher on our platform, and students are being given a link to this video which is generated by the Teacherly platform. Once student clicks on the link, the student gets redirected to the Teacherly interface, where they create their account and they log in, and once they log in they are able to see a course which is created by their teachers, and then they can kind of access the videos which are being provided by the teacher. Now once they click on one a video which is shared by the teacher, what they see is this. So on the left side there is a kind of video screen where students can just play, pause and see video like the way they usually watch, right? And on the right hand side there is this interface, and this interface has four buttons on it: difficult, boring, easy and engaging. So students can provide feedback while watching the video lecture at any point of time. The feedback is voluntary. So for example, I'm a student, now I'm watching this video lecture, and let's say around 15 minutes or so, I start finding something difficult. But still I decide, okay, I'll watch it for some more time, but then that becomes more difficult for me. So what I do is, so once at this point of time I find something difficult, I can click on this button which is showed here. So this difficult button the student will click on, right? And it's like it's a voluntary feedback, it's not compulsory that every now and then you have to provide. So whenever you feel like providing feedback, you provide the feedback, and the feedback is on these four variables: difficult, easy, boring and engaging. The another aspect is, like I talked about, voluntary. That's the reason it's student driven. The second thing is the feedback is real time. So as and when I'm watching the video, I'm providing the feedback. So it's a real time feedback. And the third most important factor is it's anonymous in nature. So teacher doesn't get an idea about who all are watching the video and who all are kind of providing a particular feedback. So let's say I find something really boring and I click on boring. So teacher doesn't know that Pankaj has provided the boring feedback, right? So this is because then the if anonymity, if we remove, then there are a lot of factors which might influence the feedback giving behavior. That's why we kept it as anonymous feedback. So basically this is an interface using which students can provide voluntary, real time and anonymous feedback about how the lecture is going. Is it difficult for them, is it easy for them, or it is boring or engaging? Now this is the first level of feedback that they provide. So they are watching a video lecture, find something difficult, they just click on the difficult button. So once they click on the difficult button, the video automatically pauses, which is on the left side. And on the right side, for that feedback, potential reasons appear. So let's say I found something difficult here. Once I click on that, a list of reasons appear on the right side. So let's say, for example, I'm finding this difficult because there is not enough explanation. So I might select this first option. And there is also a possibility of I'm missing the basics. I don't have a sufficient background to understand the content. So I might click on I'm missing basics. So there are certain predefined reasons which are there. And after clicking a feedback button, such a list of reason appears. So if student want to provide feedback from this predefined list, they can select. If they have a different feedback, a different reason, they can just click on this other button and they can enter their reasons in annotated form in 4 to 5 words. That's it. And if they want to don't provide any further feedback, they'll just click on no further feedback and move ahead. And once they click on the reason, the video will automatically start and students can continue watching the video lecture. Now, what we just talked about is the student feedback interface. On left of it, there is a video, right side, there is this feedback interface. While watching the video lecture, at any point of time, I can give feedback on either of these 4 variables. And after giving the feedback, another interface appears where you can also provide reasons. So you remember I talked about teachers not having access to reasons and teachers not having a specific context to interpret the data. But here that is being taken care of. Now what happens is, so let's say in a class of 50, the students have watched the videos at home, everyone provided feedback. Now how it goes to teacher? So there is a kind of processing that happens before this feedback goes to a teacher, and that's what I'm showing here. So what we do is we basically aggregate the data. A class level aggregation of data happens, and that data is kind of plotted as a time series data. And here you will be able to see that individual students have provided certain feedback, like this student is saying difficult at this time point. So let's say this dotted line, if you're able to see, this student clicked difficult as well as boring. Then other 2 students clicked difficult here. This student clicked engaging. This student clicked boring. So all this feedback at a particular timestamp is kind of aggregated, and the minute by minute data is plotted on this line chart where teachers get the feedback on the difficulty. So this red line indicates difficulty of the class, whereas this green line indicates the engagement of the class. So this is how the data from students is aggregated and then it is presented to the teachers, right? So this is just I talked about only aggregation of data. Now let's see how the dashboard looks like. So this is the dashboard for a teacher, and it's the same lecture I was talking about where students provided feedback. Now the teacher will be able to see multiple visualizations on this dashboard, right? So on the left side, what we have is this feedback which is synced with the video. So let's say teacher is able to identify that here in this segment there is a peak of difficulty. Now teacher can just move this slider over here and select only this part, and the video as it is synced to the feedback, only that part will get played, and teacher can go through into details of what content was delivered and what all was there that students went through. And along with that, we see on the right side there are the reasons which are presented in the form of a heat map. So students also provide reasons which are provided on the right side. Now teacher can select a particular segment, go through this and see what were the reasons, and go through this distribution as well, and can see what percentage of students found something difficult to understand, right? And then they can use this information to kind of inform their decisions. Like for example, if there is a difficulty because of lack of explanation, then teacher might go like into the class, and in class maybe a brief 10 minutes of discussion can happen first, which is led by the teacher to ensure that this difficulty is addressed, and then maybe teacher can go ahead with other activities that are designed, right? So this is just the interface and dashboard I talked about. Now what I'll do is I'll quickly give you the demo of the tool, and this demo will kind of give you an exact picture of how Teacherly can be used, right? Okay, so I'm going to the website now. Okay, so what you can see here is the website Teacherly. So once you log in, you'll be able to see this interface, and you just click on dashboard. Once you click on dashboard, what you can do is, if you have already created a course, you just click on this drop down and select the course. So if you want, this is the first time you are doing it, you just click on this box where you can create a course. You just write, let's say, course one here, click on next, and then what you see is an interface where you'll be able to add new lessons. So if you click on new lesson, then this pop-up will appear where you'll be able to enter the title of the lesson and the YouTube link to the video which you want to share with your students. So you just paste the link here, the video will appear on the right side. To confirm that it's the same video, you just click on the submit button and your video will appear here. Now let's see in one of the courses in which the video was given by the teacher. So now let's see why, like I was talking about, these are the lessons which are uploaded by the teachers. And now if I want to give this video lecture to the students for my flipped classroom, I'll just click on the share button. The link is copied and I'll share this link with my students. Now students will just click on the link and then they'll be able to open the interface and they'll be able to provide the feedback using the student feedback interface that I just showed you, and they'll be able to watch and learn from the video. Right now, let's say all the students watch the video lecture, and now now the teacher wants to go through the feedback. So on to the next to the share button, there is a teacher dashboard option. So if teacher just clicks on this, now teacher will be able to kind of open the dashboard and interact with it, right? So like I was talking about, if this is a peak of difficulty that is being identified, the teacher can select only that part with the help of the sliders. So this part is selected, and now you can see here the distribution of the feedback. Like from 22 to 30 minutes in this part of the video, around 69% of the students reported difficulty. So this is the first insight that teacher gets. Now teacher can go to this reasons and see approximately 47% of the students said that the content is too difficult for them. Now this kind of insight can help teachers to identify that many students found difficulty here. That's the first thing. Second thing, they found difficulty because of the content. They found the content itself very difficult to understand. So maybe teacher can then design the in-class activity and in-class instruction based on this, right? And let's say there is another example that I have where, let's say, teacher can see here in this particular part where what has happened is there is this initial part was very easy because it's kind of lying below the zero line. It means it's easy for the students. Now the difficulty started increasing, and at this point of time what happened is the difficulty kind of was continuously increasing. At the same point of time the engagement dropped. So this is again another insight for the teacher, where teacher can identify, okay, the difficulty increased for this particular content and there was a drop in engagement. How teacher can leverage onto this? So there could be different ways in which teacher can utilize this information. So let's say teacher identifies a difficult part, teacher designs assessment question based on it. Teacher identifies something is engaging for a student, teacher designs another in-class activity which leverages on this particular segment of the video, or this particular concept of the video where the engagement was higher. So these are the different ways in which teachers can kind of leverage onto this. Okay. So I'll just quickly now, as I have given you the demonstration of feedback interface as well as a dashboard, now I'll go back to my slides and I'll move forward with the rest of the stuff, right? So now I have just given you a brief demo of how Tcherly works. Now let's see. I kept talking about precise and actionable feedback, right? So teachers not getting precise feedback, actionable feedback. So to what extent Tcherly is able to provide a precise and actionable feedback to teachers? So let's look at some examples. These are the examples which are based on the data that I've collected during my research. So if you see the first part here, so there are three examples I have, and I'll go through each example one by one. So if you see this particular example, so you see there is engagement in the first part of the lecture till 11 minutes. There is a good engagement, but right after that, the engagement started dropping and it kind of became negative here, which again kind of increased later, right? But if we kind of now map this particular segment where there was a drop in engagement, and this was kind of matched with this particular slide which was there onto the screen for around 2-3 minutes, where there was a lot of text which was there on the video, right? So this is a video design issue. So this is a video design issue which kind of resulted into boredom, where students kind of felt very bored going through this content and trying to understand it. And the reason that was provided by majority of the students was presentation style. So this is one feedback for the teacher which is very precise in nature, like where in this video there was boredom. That's the first thing. And why the boredom existed? It's because there is a lot of text on the slide, right? So this is an actionable feedback for the teacher, where teacher identified where is the boredom and why it exists. And through the students' reasons as well, the teacher was kind of able to identify the problem, and the teacher changed the slide as well, right? Here is another example where there is a short peak of engagement you can see here, and it's the same lecture if you see. So this was the only text heavy slide which was present in the entire lecture, where the boredom was reported by the students, and there were different engaging sections as well. But if you see, there is a peak of engagement over here, a sudden rise of engagement, and this was mapped with a particular real life example, like what all different food stuff, like what amount of water it contains, and there is a hidden water in different foods. That was a discussion that was going on. This was a very interesting example for the students. So engaging is something that the feedback was provided, and it mapped with this particular slide, and students said there are interesting examples because of which we found this part as engaging. Again, it shows how precise and actionable the feedback is. And the third example, if we look at here, so there is this lecture where two difficulty peaks are identified, so highlighted by this first box and second box. So this was a Java programming demonstration lecture. So in this segment, in the first one, a one-dimensional array program was demonstrated, whereas in the second segment, a three-dimensional array program was demonstrated by the instructor in the video. Now you can clearly see that as three-dimensional array program is more complicated as compared to one-dimensional array. So some difficulty was reported by students in this segment, and that difficulty increased further, indicating that the feedback was able to capture the nature of difficulty. I mean, this was more difficult as compared to this section, and this also reflected in the feedback data. So this shows that the feedback is really precise, and it accurately captures the student feedback, which is again actionable for the teachers. Teachers can identify where is the problem, what to do based on their students' reasons. They can take actions and kind of inform their pedagogy. So these are some examples which shows and demonstrates that the teacherly feedback, I mean the student interface, can precisely capture the feedback, and which is actionable for the teachers. Now here is the same example that I just showed on the previous slide, where I was talking about a teacher who identified a boring segment where it mapped to a slide which was very text heavy. And if we go through the students' reasons, they said presentation style is a problem, right? And this was a course of around 378 students, and this was the course. And this was the only text heavy slide that was present in this entire lecture, right? And this was accurately pinpointed by the student feedback. So it shows like the feedback precisely captures it. And next to this, it's actionable as well. So teacher kind of redesigned this video content. So this slide in the video was changed, and it made even less text heavy and digestible for the student, so that the information processing kind of happens in effective manner. So this is how this one example of where the teacherly dashboard helped the teacher to identify an issue and address that issue with the help of students' reasons, and that kind of helped teacher to make the instruction and video design better. And I'll quickly show you some real life examples of based on the data that we have collected from classroom, like how dashboard can be used and what insights it can give. So this is one course called operating system. This many 96 students provided feedback, and in this segment there was this peak of engagement and even a slight small rise of easy as well. So this is indicated by this yellow line. Now if we see, this was mapped to this particular schematics and animation that was used to communicate the concept of segmented memory. So this is something where students were engaged, and they found this part very easy to understand. And now if you go to reasons, the reasons were good explanation provided, and the neat presentation was there. Here again you can see presentation style was one of the reasons. So the insight here is for the teacher is the schematics and animation supported information processing. Now going ahead, teacher can use similar videos or design similar videos in which the schematics and animations can be used in such effective manner, whereas information processing of students is better. This is another example where, like towards the end of the lecture, in analysis of algorithms course, the teacher was giving an example, a practical example of a graph coloring problem in newspaper printing in the old days, and how the particular concept which was taught in this lecture related to graph coloring problem can be very useful over there. So here you can see there is a rise in engagement as well, and students found this part easy. So then if we again go through the reasons, good explanation, interesting topic, interesting examples. So this shows that this practical application and the explanation that was surrounding it kind of engaged students and made the concept kind of easier for them to digest. And this is again another example which shows how dashboard can provide insights to the teacher related to video design, how effective it was, how students were learning, and based on that inform their design. Okay, so I have been talking about what Teacherly is, how the tool works, and how it is helpful for the teachers as well, and how it helps students to kind of communicate the problems that they face, the engagement, where they are engaged, and all that, right? Now, what I'll be talking about briefly is the technology that is behind Teacherly. So it's basically simply a web-based application, right? Both the student interface and teacher dashboard are web-based applications, and this is a brief kind of representation of how it works, right? I'll not definitely go into details of this, but this is just to demonstrate that as these are the web-based applications, the client side is built with React.js, where there are multiple visualizations that you just saw, right? On dashboard there are multiple visualizations, students are able to kind of provide feedback. So this is the client side where React.js, using React.js we built the system, and then the communication of APIs happen through Express.js, and then MongoDB is the database in which the student feedback is stored and retrieved whenever required when teacher does some analysis, right? And so what have we done so far? So kind of we work with around 18 teachers from during my research. I worked with 18 teachers who use Teacherly, and 1175 students kind of use the tool to provide feedback, and 18 teachers use the dashboard to analyze feedback and inform their instruction. And it kind of resulted into 7 research publications, and we have also done some usability analysis as well. So the SU scores, like system usability skill scores, are also good, which shows that the system is usable and there is good acceptance from the users side, right, as well. And this tool is freely accessible to teachers, so any teacher, let's say K-12 teacher or even a higher education teacher, can access the website and they can easily freely access the tool, right? And with this I would like to end my talk, and kind of give a brief summary of what all we have done and what all I talked about and what's the background of that and how we kind of came up with this, right? So like I talked about, students are not able to communicate their issues, teacher not able to identify where the issue lies. So the problem is with the data, so there is no precise data that is available to teacher. So the framework that we use to design this tool is basically here on the left hand side. So what we have here is this framework called learning analytics cycle. So this cycle basically talks about like how we kind of generates data either from students or maybe a technology platform. So what basically it talks about is the first are the learners. A data is generated about learners, and then using that data some metrics or analytics is created which helps teachers to kind of take some interventions or take some actions based on this metrics and the insights that are being gathered. And these interventions or the actions that they take kind of influences the student learning. So this is a simple framework that we have utilized, and based on which our research is also kind of developed based on this framework. And on the right side you can see a reflection of this, but in the model like we have developed, which is Teacherly, where we do is like students kind of watching the video lecture and students kind of provides the real time feedback, and that's where the students are generating data by themselves. So the data about learners is generated by the students themselves, and then that data is aggregated, and this aggregation is nothing but this step of coming up with some metrics and analytics which are present on the dashboard. And using this dashboard then teachers can design certain interventions, some actions, pedagogical decisions, which kind of influences their instruction and hence the students learning at the end, right? So this is how the operationalization of this learning analytics cycle and the framework is being done in our research. And the reason I'm ending with this slide is because this is a broader framework and this is a broader approach that can be taken maybe by researchers or even practitioners and even the designers of certain tools, such kind of tools, where they can take a similar approach and design similar tools to gather feedback from video lectures, or maybe from a different kind of teaching learning setting as well, right? So this is a broader framework which can be used by any practitioner, designer, as well as researcher, to come up with a mechanism which captures precise and even actionable feedback for instructor or even a video designer or whoever the stakeholder is, right? So that is the reason I ended up with this slide, and with this I kind of end up with my presentation and talk. So thank you so much for your patience, and thanks for joining today. So Samir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. It was indeed a very detailed session on how to gather precise and actionable feedback form for students on online video lectures. We hope online participants have found this helpful too, and people who will be watching this YouTube session later, they will also get some relevant information out of it. Uh, we uh, we from EdTech Society wishes you all the best with this platform Teacherly, and we hope more and more teacher join Teacherly, and they learn from it and they use it in their classroom and make this teaching learning more engaging and interesting for students. So as we have said that we will be sharing a letter of participation in the end. So in the chat box in the YouTube chat, you can find the letter of participation form. So I request all the members, all the people whosoever has joined this session, so they just fill that form. It's a feedback form as well as the letter of participation form. I have shared it in the YouTube chat. You can find it there. Again, for any help, any assistance, you can write to us at info@etsociety.org, or you can call us at 9307811986. So we thanks once again to all the participants whosoever has attended this session online. And we thank you, Pankaj, for taking this session. And we wish you all the best. And we wish to see you again in the upcoming sessions of Tech Society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Salim, and thank you so much to all the participants.
Okay, so we are ending this session now. Thank you again.